Ooh. All right, mic check 1 2 1 2. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time you tuning in and consuming all this. Good to have you. Good to have you here. Podcast listeners, again, as always, just be a little patient with me as I get everything straight. These days I am using AI in ways that I didn't think were possible, but my time is getting more and more valuable by the second, and I'm learning now to just go ahead and do all the recordings all in one, do the video in the morning, and then do my live streams and then turn those into podcast recordings so that way I have more time throughout the day to do my outreach. And this is a lesson, early lesson, man. Again, I'm doing it with you as I'm walking you through it, understanding that your time, the most valuable resource that you have is your time. It's not your money, it's your time. All right, your time. You got to find efficient usage of your time. The more you do that, the better off your life is going to be. I can guarantee you that. Find efficient usage of your time. The more you do that. All right, here we go. Let's get right into this. All right, look, that only took me, minute 30, minute 40 since I started recording. I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better at that. I'm getting better at this, folks. All right, first and foremost, let me introduce myself real quick to anybody that is new to my world. My name, As One Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author. What I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly brand is all about. Taking the lessons of teamwork, the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and aligning them with businesses and business owners so they have a staff, they have a group of employees that moves as efficiently and as cohesively and as eagerly and as passionately as a championship high school or youth football team. That is what we do. That is specifically what I have become an expert at doing. That is what the employee development workshops are all about, is taking those lessons, and there's so many of them, and applying them to businesses, which is the reason I tell you guys I'm 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author, is because I am in the process of working on book number 6. Again, book number 6, 2026. I kind of, got a little marketing thing going on. So book number 6 is going to be about how to be a Win-Trapreneur. So by the time we get to 2026, it'll be well over a year of me talking about this new term that I coined, this new thing that I've created called a Win-Trapreneur. And what it means, what it's all about, is basically what an entrepreneur-minded person, a person that has an entrepreneur mindset, who's been lucky enough and blessed enough and fortunate enough to find a job that's paying them every 2 weeks, that's aligning with their entrepreneurial vision. That is a blessing. That is a really, really valuable thing to have. There's a lot of people that call themselves entrepreneurs, but they're not at all. And even if you are in that entrepreneur world, or you are actually officially an entrepreneur, there was a lot of things there's a lot of associations that you have to work with along the way. There's no individual out there that just does everything by themselves and creates success by themselves. You're always going to need to work with people. The term was intrapreneur, but because I'm your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, I got to put my own creative spin to everything I put out there. And Win-Trapreneur is the term that I coined. So we're gonna dive into a lot of the concepts today. There's a great story that I want to tell you, because we're going to talk a little bit about Invisible Man and Ralph Ellison, and how that story is just an incredible story. But before I get too deep into the content today, let me just get through a few announcements really quick. So anybody new coming in, you guys know this is what I'm all about. First things first, as always, if you are living in the West Palm Beach area, or even in the South Florida area in general, all right, because I'm all over. I'm from Miami for a lot. We can work this out if things are monetary. But in terms of just now, I do host free boxing lessons out here in West Palm Beach. I'm a life group leader at my church that I go to in West Palm Beach. So I do those every 2 weeks. If you are interested in that, be sure to go to freeboxing.com. unboxing.makeyourmove.com, or if you're looking at this on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, just hit that QR code that you see right there on the screen, and I will get you all the information. Next thing, as a business owner, like I tell you every single day, you've got to do something to make it so these people that come into your business, that work for you, that are eager, you have got to make it so they have a purpose. You cannot allow an environment in your organization in which people are there and they're just receiving a check and not really providing anything measurable or anything monetary. So what I did is I created a free guide for all business owners to you guys to tune into. There's 10 steps, there are 10 bullet points in which you can start utilizing these things right now. All right. It's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. And also be sure to tap into the Patreon. Do tap into the Patreon, patreon.com/as144. All of that is available on makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. If you're looking at this on visually, you can see you can shop, you could join the Patreon, you could book me to speak, or you could simply learn more about me. Or you could right there on that website, you can tune into one of those fantastic episodes from the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork, the Move Swiftly podcast. Be sure, like, comment, share, subscribe, do whatever you got to do to get this in the front of as many people that you think may need it as possible. We're talking about folks that have struggled and are struggling every single day with the amount of turnover that they're dealing with. All right. So as far as today, let's get right into what we're going to be discussing today. All right. So we have it's almost like the perfect discussion, because what I have done previously, the way I've taken the whole Win-Trapreneur concept, is there are times in which I will talk about me. Obviously, I'm the ultimate Win-Trapreneur. I'm the ultimate one that has had tons of different jobs that I've felt have aligned with my overall big entrepreneurial vision, what I want to do as a business owner. And there's a lot of times where I'll just talk about myself and talk about some of the things I've done that make me a Win-Trapreneur. But there are also times in which I feature other folks. All right. I've featured last week. I think I still have the thumbnails. Let me see if I have it. Yep. So last week, because I try not to delete them. Let me see if I have them. Hold on. Actually, let me add. I'm gonna add it really, really quick, because I want to give you guys an understanding of. There are times in which, if I could find it, should have it. All right, whatever. We'll do it like this. There are times in which I'll feature other people as Win-Trapreneurs. All right. So last week it was Kevin Plank, as you can see. Kevin Plank, founder of Under Armour, grew up in the same area that I grew up in. This was last week's. The week before, I talked about a coach I had. His name is John Vassos. Let me move this real quick. Coach John Vassos, who I spoke about. You guys can go read that article at your leisure. Read the article or watch the video in which I spoke about him. I've even featured Stephen A. Smith as a Win-Trapreneur when he signed that big deal. Let me go back even more. Byron Donalds, my guy, Byron Donalds, another Win-Trapreneur feature. Tons of them. I've been doing it everywhere. Mike Wills, another coach I had, Win-Trapreneur feature. I'm just pulling out the receipts here, showing you guys this is what we do. This is what we do. Tyler Santucci was another Win-Trapreneur. There's a lot of Win-Trapreneurs that come from my world, come from the football world, because of what is required of us, what the game creates. The game creates a entrepreneurial minded person. If you want to land that contract, if you're willing to go work maybe some smaller jobs in order to get your knowledge right, you got to do stuff for free. I volunteered myself. I was a volunteer high school football coach for 2 seasons. And, I had to learn what I need to learn. I need to figure out where I fit in the game. All that kind of stuff. Everything connects when it comes to, how you go about your business and how much you're willing to do and how much you're willing to learn in every single experience and every single situation that you're in. All right. So today is going to be kind of a mix of both. I'm going to be talking a little bit about myself, but also another individual that I had the chance of meeting. I crossed paths with one of the things that actually moved me. One of the actual things that got me to come to Florida. I'll say it like this: one of the excuses I was able to make to finally get to Florida and to kind of push through and go to Florida was the fact that there was this school in Bradenton named Visible Man Academy. I'll pull it up right now. I'll pull it up right now for my viewers right now, because this backstory is actually going to be is going to be important. It's going to be important as I get into the article. All right. So Visible Man Academy. All right. This for those of you who are looking at this visually, I pulled up the website for Visible Man Academy that still does exist in it still exists in Bradenton, Florida. All right, so the person who started the school, so he's no longer associated with the school anymore. But the individual who started this school is a guy named Neil Phillips. I'm just pulling it up. I'm gonna show you guys now. Neil Phillips. All right, because I want to make sure we pull up his resume. Neil Phillips. Neil Phillips was also the founder of a company named One-on-One Basketball. Now, he's actually born in, I believe he's born in Jamaica, but I know he grew up in Maryland, and he went to a school named Landon High School, and he was an athletic director there. He played basketball, if I'm not mistaken. He did some things in the Olympics. Right here, you guys can see, very well-known thought leader, very successful guy, founder of Visible Man Academy, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, right. He was at Harvard. Yeah, he went to Landon, Harvard grad. Yep, right there. Yes. All right, so I'll read it real quick. Neil Phillips, co-founder of Bradenton's new Visible Man Academy, a charter elementary school for disadvantaged boys, was a school administrator in Bethesda, Maryland. That's where Landon is. Before moving to Longboat Key in 2011 with his wife, social work and VMA administrator Sharon Rohier Phillips, and two young sons, a Harvard grad, former pro basketball player for teams in Australia and Jamaica. Phillips named the academy in nod to the Ralph Ellison novel Invisible Man, their untold stories of success right before our eyes. He says that's one of the reasons or one of the excuses I was able to make to go to Florida, because I'm gonna just give you the backstory. This is exactly the way it happened. Neil Phillips was also the founder of a company named One-on-One Basketball. Let me see if it's still here. Yep. One-on-One Basketball. Yep, here it is. Okay, this is all the truth. Do you see what I'm saying? This is what is allowed. All right. Before I moved to Florida, I was contracted to work at One-on-One Basketball. And what I would do is they had contracts in terms of certain elementary schools, and it wasn't I know it says One-on-One Basketball, but it was other sports that I would go and I would teach the kids after certain little things about how to do this. It was flag football, a bunch of little things that they would do, but the company name is One-on-One Basketball. So I did some work with them. I was contracted with them. I was getting an actual paycheck from them. And then I looked, as I was trying to figure out ways to get to Florida, I looked at what this is I was looking at how I can get there, who I knew what some of my resources could be. And then I noticed this guy, Neil Phillips, is one of the founders of One-on-One Basketball. So let me just read the bio here. It says, Neil has had an illustrious career at the high school and college professional levels. At Harvard University, Neil received the All Ivy League honors 3 seasons and was named team MVP and co-captain the team his senior year. Upon graduating, he was named Harvard's Athlete of the Year. This is Harvard Athlete. Again, I'm just reading off the accomplishments of this guy. Neil played professionally in 2 continental basketball. So upon his return, he spent 2 years with Advantage International NBA player, member of Jamaica national team, captivating and active as a player. Over the past several years, Neil has served as a board member for several Washington area youth charity and as a board member of the Positive Coaching Alliance. Do you see how all this connects? I told you guys yesterday, I was a trainer at PCA, Positive Coaching Alliance, and that's what built my speaking. That's what started to build my workshops and build my concept. I'm reading this real time, guys. I didn't even realize he was a board member for PCA. So, I mean, forgive me if I'm a I myself am sounding a little surprised because I didn't even know that. But anyway, his extensive and varied basketball background has afforded him a wealth of basketball experience, and as a player and as a teacher of the game. Currently, Neil is the head of upper school at the Landon School in Bethesda, Maryland. So this was obviously written before he founded Visible Man Academy. And when I looked him up while I was working at one-on-one basketball, that's when I realized, oh, snap, he has a school in Florida where I'm looking to move. So what happened was I actually emailed the school. I emailed the school during that fall. I'm like, yo, I just noticed some such and such. I reach out to them, I get a response, and I schedule a tour. And then the first move I made actually when I got to Florida was I drove to Tampa and then, to St. Petersburg. And then that Monday, I drove to Bradenton to actually visit the school and, figure out how I get a position, all that kind of stuff. Right now, nothing ever actually materialized, but I did get a chance to see the school. And then when you look at the school I'm at now, the Center for Creative Education, it's like, come on, man. Like you can't write a better script. I can't make this stuff up, man. I'm telling you, I'm the ultimate Win-Trapreneur. All right. You cannot make this kind of stuff up. It just happens when you're focused. All right. It just happens when you're focused. But I thought about him because as we're in a week in which we're dissecting the importance of being in the right environment, creating the right environment, and understanding that environments are everything. Again, if you've listened to me for the last 2 days, it's because I took a group of second and first graders. I'm one of the bus drivers here at the school. I took a group of them to the botanical gardens, and I got an opportunity to sit in on some lectures, a quick lecture. And, she's talking about how certain plants thrive in Florida because they got the sunlight, they got the rain, and they got certain elements that make them grow. And I'm like, okay, I like this. So I'm taking my notes. I'm ready to, jot some things down for next week and all that kind of stuff. And, here we are. And when I plug these things into a system, I have a solid system. To Make Your Move Monday kickoff question. It's Top 5 Tuesday. And when we get to Wednesday, it's Win-Trapreneur Wednesday. How do I take that and align it with the concept of being a Win-Trapreneur? And then Thursday, it's kind of putting a cap and recapping everything. And then Friday, we go faith-based Friday. All right. So with all that, with you guys understanding all that and how all of this kind of stuff works and how you got to make sure you're staying focused on your goal, I'm going to read through the article that just dropped. And by the way, so these articles, again, I'm considering this. Leave a comment if you're interested in participating in this. But if you do follow me on Medium, I am considering, making the book that I'll be dropping this year. I'll make it free. I'll probably just ask for you to cover the shipping or something like that. But I'm working on figuring out how I can make some sort of a deal for the people who do follow me on Mediums or something like that. That's a campaign that I'm still kind of working out in my mind. So again, follow me on medium.com. I know you may not be as familiar with Medium. It's not as popular as some of these other social platforms, but this is between Medium and YouTube, LinkedIn are the things that I engage with the most. Instagram is more, you want entertainment. Facebook is more like, again, it's kind of the older thing, but in terms of the platforms that I really work with or really discuss or really, engage in is Medium, YouTube, LinkedIn. All right. So all that being said, let's get through the article and then we'll interject as usual. Okay, welcome back to another Win-Trapreneur Wednesday, where we dive deep into to a term I coined myself, Win-Trapreneur, and explore the mindset, habits, and environments needed to thrive as one. Sometimes I spotlight others who live this life. Other times I use personal stories to illuminate the concept. Today, we are doing both by focusing on one of the most essential aspects of being a Win-Trapreneur, thriving in an unfamiliar environment. The inspiration. I was recently struck by a moment in a video featuring Neil Phillips, founder of Visible Man Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Around the 1450 mark in this video, Neil, an African-American man, shares his personal experience speaking about race in a room full of white people. He doesn't shrink. He doesn't hesitate. He leans into the moment with poise and power. The clip was more than powerful. It was personal. Okay, so now we got to play the clip, right? We got to play the clip. I'm going to let the clip play, and I want you all to really see it, really understand what it takes to be in that moment, what it takes to, and again, you can go listen to the whole thing, and whether you want to agree with it, disagree with it, whatever. And I watched the whole thing. So he talks a little bit about some of the people that may agree or may disagree or whatever he says. None of that matters. Understand there's a sense of courage. There's a sense of poise. There's a sense of there's a sense of belief. There's a sense of confidence that comes when you're able to do this. All right. When you're able to do this in an unfamiliar environment. And that, my friend, is what we got to be taken away from this. So I'll let it play.
Differently than you are outside of the scope of blackness. It is limiting. I got to pause for a second. I am having a conversation with a room full of white people and talking about blackness. Do me a favor, right? So on Monday, right, you'll get back to the office and one of your colleagues or coworkers will say, "This is the Nantucket Project. And what is that thing about?" Look them dead in the eye.
Yeah.
And say, "It's about blackness." And keep walking, right? Just walk. No explanation, nothing.
I
Just
like
hit
it.
them with it.
I love
right?
it, man. I love it.
I looked out there. I was thinking just this morning, I was sitting over there. I was like, my goodness, the elephants here are white, right? What are we doing? Right? What are we going to do?
And that's his wife, too, by the way.
Yeah. So.
But do you see my point? Do you guys get that? Do you guys see it? Like, unfamiliar environments, it's so important that you step into it, you speak to it, you don't run from it, you don't bitch up, and you start to show that you're proud of where you came from. That's something I was watching this. I was watching this before I even got to Florida. And I remember actually meeting Neil at the school and shaking his hand and looking him in the eye and saying, man, it's so much bigger than an institution. You're so much bigger than, just being at one school. Now, when you throw in the fact that the school was named Visible Man Academy after, let me pull this up because you have to pull it up now. We're going to get to the article, but Invisible Man. Ralph Ellison, when you really consider this book, I mean, listen, I tell the story all the time, but shout out to Mike Hibbs, who is, in fact, let me see what he's doing now. I think he's actually in Florida. I think he's actually out here. Last I heard, he's Mike Hibbs basketball. I think he's actually he might still be there. Now it's his leadership. Yeah, is he still here? Let me see this real quick, guys. Real quick. Yep. Mike Hibbs right here. So Mike Hibbs is now, this is 2023. Let me see some. Canterbury School in Fort Myers. Give me a second. Podcast listeners, just give me 1 second. I want to see if Mike Hibbs is still with the school. He might have retired, but last I heard, Mike Hibbs, I'll show you, I'll just keep him on the screen for a second. Mike Hibbs was the basketball coach when I was at Good Counsel. That was my sophomore, junior, and senior year. So I had him my senior year as a literature teacher, and he would be obsessed. Anybody that's ever taken one of his classes would tell you how obsessed he was with Invisible Man, right? So when I became a trainer with Positive Coaching Alliance, you get the opportunity to meet with a lot of people and, get to know people. And Matt Booth, this guy right here, Dean of Athletics, strength coach, he became he became a Positive Coaching Alliance trainer. And then I was telling him about how, I met Mike. I know Mike Hibbs from when I played. And he was like, yep, he still uses Invisible Man. He still talks about it. He still talks about Invisible Man all the time. Let me see if he's still around. And Canterbury School is a school out in Fort Myers. I believe it is, like Naples area. Yeah, Fort Myers, Canterbury School. So beautiful campus, as you can see. So again, I can't make this kind of stuff up. This is just the reality of what I've been through, what I've lived through, all that kind of stuff, right? So let's get back to the article. The Visible Man Academy help inspire, right? And I'm pretty much reiterating some of the things that I've already kind of expressed, but I'm going to read it directly for anybody that is just tuning in. All right. The Visible Man Academy helped inspire my own move to Florida. Neil built that school off a foundation laid by Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, a book that changed the trajectory of my life as well. It was first introduced to me by a high school teacher who also happened to be a basketball coach. Years later, during one of the most chaotic seasons of my life, I reread it and it felt like I was reading my own autobiography. This is true. I remember him, and again, we're in high school, so a teacher tells you to read a book and you're like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'll just read it for the test. You're not really going through a lot, or enough, at least from my perspective. I wasn't going through enough to really appreciate what I was reading. So I went back and reread it after I graduated college and things were rough and I tried this and I tried that. I reread that. In fact, I'll never forget those reading sessions because the book was going so well that I actually drove out to an old practice field right there in Jackson Road in Maryland. And I just sat in the grass. I was by myself and I just read it and read it and read it and read it. And I was like, you could feel me growing in these moments, because the book is basically about a boy who goes through life he goes through the entire book nameless. No one knows his name. He's out there putting in work and putting in work and putting in work, and he's nameless, and he goes through college and he tries this, he tries that, and no one's paying attention to him. It feels like no one's actually giving him a shot. It felt so real to me. And then as you kind of see the lesson, the takeaway from it was all about, look, it doesn't matter who notices. At some point, you got to live your life based on a principle and not be worried about who likes and who dislikes you and who's this and who. It's about what kind of principles are you carrying on as you move forward to every single season of your life, and do those principles stick? That's what I was rooted in. That's what this whole thing was rooted in. And then the move to Florida. And then when the school came about, this school became such a bigger deal as I started reading these things and understanding these concepts and understanding the foundation of these things. And that's the man you see now, the version of Aswan you see now, it comes from that place where I just locked in and decided you got to make a decision. All right. So where are we at? All right. All right. The truth about unfamiliar. All right. So now we're getting to unfamiliar environments. All right. The truth about unfamiliar environments. Let's start by deconstructing the lie. The idea of an unfamiliar environment is often just a smokescreen, a tool of division, a manufactured limit meant to keep certain people from showing up in spaces where they belong. I'll give you a real life example. Oh man, yes. This one was great. I'm rereading it as well, so I'm forgetting that I actually did mention this as an example. Okay, this one's perfect, and let me see where we are on time. All right, we got it. I'm trying to keep these at 45 minutes, so we got about 15 more minutes. Let me give you this. I'm gonna break this now, but I will get through the whole article regardless of the time. All right, so I'll give you a real life example. Reading this directly from the Medium article now. During my final football season at Stony Brook University, we opened the season against the University of South Florida in Raymond James Stadium, home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and site of multiple Super Bowls. Yes, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. That is where we at Stony Brook football, this small school, okay, this small school that you see right here is playing in Raymond James Stadium. It was a big deal. This was a big deal for me. It was a big deal. It's a small school, and we're playing with the big dogs, in Tampa. I remember actually we had a couple guys on the team from Tampa. Shout out to Brevi and Casey and Will Skiffington. He was the kicker. So it was pretty cool. Armwood, again, when you play high school football and you're not from Florida, all you get is stories. You just get stories from the people that did, and the stories are crazy. The stories are crazy. Like, yo, you ain't really lived until you did. Like, they really think they invented high school football out here in Florida. And again, they have the number, they have the names, they got the programs to actually make a valid argument when it comes to that. But anyway, all right. So we're at Raymond James Stadium. At first, it felt overwhelming. A small program like ours on a big stage. But after warm-ups, I remember turning to my teammate and saying, yo, it's just like practice. Same drills, same 100 yards, same game. Lesson: don't shrink because the stadium looks different. The turf doesn't care who you are. Neither does the goalpost. What matters is how you show up. Oh, low. Let me break that down. I got to break that down. I got to break it down. You know I got to break it down. Let me give you some context when it comes to this and why this matters, why this was so important, why this feeling still sticks with me. It stills in me to this very day. All right. So I remember it's this picture. It's always fun looking at this picture because this was actually taken during spring practice. All right. And going into what became my final year at Stony Brook, that spring, I was actually the starting fullback. All right. And it's a lot of competition because we were losing one of the most valuable players I think ever played at Stony Brook. His name was Melaquan Saffold. So he was that kind of that fullback that can also play some tight end, can also move in the slot, can block, can do a lot of different things to make the offense, move efficiently that your casual fan won't see, right? So it was a lot to get him replaced, and they tried. They moved me from linebacker to fullback. They moved another guy named Matt Fiella from linebacker to fullback. They also moved Chris Fenelon from linebacker. They moved three of us. Came in to Stony Brook as defensive guys, and we ended up playing offense. But all three of us ended up playing offense, right? So Matt, I believe, when I left, actually turned out to kind of be the replacement. He ended up being a captain, if I'm not mistaken. And Chris as well did some great things with the program. And he's actually the strength coach at Bowling Green now. He's the head strength coach at Bowling Green. So anyway, what happened was, it was during the spring where I was the starting fullback. And then once the fall started, the competition obviously heated up. The competition heated up. And what I actually hate to say, because I don't know. I don't know how many. I don't know if he's forgot about it, but what happened was, so Chris got himself into a little situation during the off season. I'm just for those of you who are listening, I'm just throwing up a little drinking sign. We're college kids and stuff like that. So he got himself into a little situation. This is taking me back to my college years. But so Chris got himself into a little situation and he got suspended for the first game. All right. So what happened was, even though, they were going to move forward with Chris and they were going to move forward with Matt as terms of those guys that were going to be like the Melaquan, the fullback, and the wing back. We already had two kind of prototypical tight end type guys in Dave Shook and Brett Arce, who's also actually, I think he's coaching in college now. So they had their tight ends, but they needed a replacement for Mel. Matt and Chris were going to be the guys they moved forward with. Because Chris got himself into a bit of a situation, they needed somebody to travel with. They needed another like fullback type guy to travel with for that first game in South Florida. And I used to, because me and him were like boys, like he was one of my best friends on the team. And I used to tell Chris that whole year, I was like, look, if you didn't get into your situation, I wouldn't have made the travel team to go to South Florida. So I thank you. I appreciate you, brother. It'd be funny because you know what, you're right. I did you a favor by getting in trouble. So, but anyway, so I ended up going to South Florida because Chris couldn't go. And this is when we played at Raymond James Stadium. And this was it for me because I knew going into this year that was going to be my final year. I did 4 years of college. I knew I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, got to the Division I program. I had already had experience in the working world. I already kind of knew what I was going to do. The high school I played for has produced enough NFL talent to know, as one, you're not going to be good enough to play in the NFL. Straight up. Like I knew that going into college. So being at a Division I school was like an accomplishment for me. So I knew this was going to be my final year, and I was taking in all of these lessons going in because I knew I wanted to coach in the NFL. I wanted to be a part of the game from a coaching standpoint and all that kind of stuff, and really do a lot of the work I'm doing now in terms of using the game and teaching and stuff like that, right? So we get to Tampa. We're staying at the Hyatt, and then we also get an opportunity to walk around the stadium a little bit. But when the pads went on, and we were going over our normal drills, it was like instant. It was just the same of the stuff as we do right there at Stony Brook. Even though it's obviously a location for the Super Bowl. I mean, it's Raymond James Stadium. It's Tampa. I was literally just out there in this past December when Michigan whooped some Alabama ass. and every time I walk in that stadium, every time I'm around that stadium, it's like, whew, you get this feeling because it was an experience that was unbelievable for me. However, when you get on the field, and this is where I want to take you. This is what I want you guys to understand. When we got on the field, it was the same 100 yards. We were doing the same drills, and nothing felt different. It was just time to play ball. So when we talk about this concept of unfamiliar environments, if you really got it in you, if you're really practicing, if you're really prepping, if you're really in the place of making sure you're ready for your moment or ready for major things to happen to you when venues change and, the people that you looking like, the people around you aren't looking like you, all that kind of stuff. When all that stuff is changing around you, you will not bat an eye. You will be prepped. You'll be prepared, and you'll know exactly what you need to do. All right. Do not get overwhelmed by a bigger or new environment or something that's just brand new, because it's going to boil down to the same principles. This is one of the reasons why the goal for me is to become a play-by-play announcer, because I remember listening to some college football games, and some of the best announcers would do this. I think it was Georgia. They were talking about Georgia Tech, and because Georgia Tech is in Atlanta, and they were talking about another school, and the announcer got really, really serious, because he goes, it doesn't matter if you're at Georgia Tech or you're at Idaho College, you're going to be doing the same thing anyway. So you got to go play. You kind of felt it through the broadcast. It was like, oh man, you're ready to go recruiting at that point, man. So, but this is again why I'm such a passionate recruiter. And when you're talking college football with me, talking to one of the experts in the game, one of the ones that have lived it, done it, seen it, been there, done that. All right, so let me finish out through the article. So, getting back to the article for my podcast listeners, from surviving to thriving. Now, let's be clear. All right. This isn't just about existing or blending in. It's about thriving. This is important, all right? Because the last point I made, you can stay there. You can stay there and say, okay, I'm not overwhelmed by the environment. I hear you, this, that, and the third. And like, look, let's just go with the status quo. That's not what we're doing. Win-Trapreneuring, being a Win-Trapreneur is about now taking that principle, taking that concept, taking that understanding, and now thriving in it. Thriving because you were prepped going in, and no venue, the things that mostly overwhelm folks that are in a new environment, all that stuff is not going to affect you. Now we're going to thrive. And now we're just going to get better and do what we got to do. In fact, if one of the big clips, one of the clips that really inspired me yesterday, sometimes, a lot of these clips come up on my feed, was when LeBron was talking to Steve Nash and their new podcast, Mind the Game. And LeBron was talking about how he played pickup outside. He played pickup wherever, when he was back in his days, he was doing whatever, like wherever the ball was bouncing, it didn't matter what was going on. I'm playing some pickup, and then he obviously have to worry about fans and things of that nature. But then he goes, look, I just built an outdoor court in my backyard and started inviting guys to play and say, we're going to do this all day. This is why he's the GOAT. This is why it's LeBron James, because he loves the game of basketball, and he will play it wherever, against whoever he got to do it with. All right. So Jesus, let me get through the article. All right, now let's be clear. This isn't just about existing or blending in. It's about thriving. To thrive, you must intentionally remove yourself from clicks and surface level validation. Avoid the temptation to judge or isolate others based on race, gender, or any other external trait. That mindset may feel safe, but it only serves to slow your growth. Thriving means doing the work. Thriving means you serve, you lead, you disrupt, even if no one around you looks or sounds like you. I want that to sink in. I want that to sink in, folks, because at this point, this is when you're going to start creating enemies. This is when you're going to start getting negative comments. This is when you're going to start getting people who genuinely want to see you fail, who will intentionally put roadblocks in front of you, intentionally do bullshit to make it so the goals and the things that you're trying to do, they just want to make it a little bit more challenging than it actually already is. If you can live and you can see it, you can recognize those moments, there's no stopping you. I swear to God. I'm giving you the game, man. There's no stopping you. When you start recognizing people doing their bullshit, their typical bullshit, where they're going to put little roadblocks in front of you, they're going to say this, they're going to say that, they're going to say this behind your back, they're going to do this, they do it, and you just see it and you show up and you do the job anyway, there's absolutely no stopping you when you're able to recognize it. But you're only going to be able to recognize it if you have the predetermined mindset that you're going to thrive and not survive. You're only going to get there if you have that mindset. If your mentality is about, all right, I'm going to thrive in this situation, I'm not just going to survive, then that is the only time in which you're able to recognize and see it and then say, okay, good. That's going according to plan. That person did some bullshit. That person tried to put some roadblocks. That person tried to dirty up the shit I'm on and try to tell me this and tell me that. I recognized it. I got better anyway. Bang. No stopping me. None. That's how it works. All right, so let me get through this real quick. I'm gonna reread that because I want to make sure it sinks in. To thrive, you must intentionally remove yourself from clicks and surface level validation. Avoid the temptation to judge or isolate others based on race, gender, or any other external trait. That mindset may feel safe, but it only serves to slow your growth. Thriving means doing the work. Thriving means you serve, you lead, you disrupt, even if no one around you looks or sounds like you. As one of the few males, and this I'm speaking about myself, okay? So as one of the few males working in elementary education, I've become a visible leader in my space, not to show off but to signal my tribe that we can create demand for the work that's on our hearts, no matter how many roadblocks others try to stack up against us. And here's the plot twist. Once you push through that resistance, you often get something even better than what you originally bargained for. Come on, man. Come on, go back and listen to the whole show, man. Go back and listen to the whole show. You are listening and speaking to someone that moved to Florida with the excuse of, oh, there's this charter school in Bradenton named Visible Man Academy that sounds like asthma, like a bunch of that prides himself on being a mentor to a bunch of young Black boys. 7 years later, look at the place I end up. Look at the school I end up. Look at what they sell. Look at what they do. It's so crazy. Okay? That's my point. Like, you got to understand, this is real life, man. That's the way it works. Once you put it in your head that you're going to do the opportunities and stuff that you didn't even see coming. This wasn't a school that even existed 7 years ago when Visible Man Academy was there. And again, I'm not to say that this is going to be like my final stop or anything, but to have this opportunity, to have this experience and have where I was before CCE to what I am now, it's like, come on. The opportunity, you have to have yourself in that ready, set position. You can't be just going around being surface level and, having clicks and all that. You can't just expect these things to happen if you're not putting yourself out there and putting the work in. These things don't find you. Stuff don't mix. Math don't math. If you're, breaking it down in those terms. All right. So as let me get into my final thoughts, because I see I'm running low on time. Like I said, I want to work on keeping these around 45 minutes. But final thought. The only thing unfamiliar about these environments is the lack of precedent, not your ability to perform in them. You're an outsider. You're not an outsider. You're a trailblazer. You're not here to fit in. You're here to Win-Trapreneur your way through the noise. Period, point blank, end of sentence. The mic is officially dropping, folks. The mic is officially dropping on that one, because it is absolutely crucial and it's absolutely possible for you to get whatever it is you want, but you have got to remove the cliquey nonsense. Remove it. Fight that urge. Fight it. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you it's easy. It's not. But if you can get through it, it's like Tupac said, if you can make it through the night, there's a brighter day. Everything will be all right if you hold on. There's a struggle every day. Got to roll on. There's no words that can express how it feels. And dear mama, all right, if you can make it through the night, there's a brighter day. So all that being said, happy Win-Trapreneur Wednesday. Get off the internet, go do something, go make something happen, go reach out to somebody, go contact some people. Like literally after this, I'm going to be reaching out to my leads and getting that stuff straight. So go do something, go make something happen. All right. So before you do though, let me just make sure I announce it one more time in case you came in late. MakeItMove.com, main website to check out to dive deeper into everything I'm doing. Especially ask about the employee development workshops. You can shop there. You can join the Patreon. You can book me to speak at your organization. So you have this type of energy. I could teach this type of energy to your staff, to your employees, so they have it. They walk in there with a changed mindset, or just again, listen to one of those absolutely fantastic episodes of the Move Swiftly podcast. Will continue to be and will be until as long as podcasts exist. It will continue to be the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork. All right. So everyone out there, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.